Fresh news, smart talk, all day. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
Good morning. Prime Minister Davis says no hike in water and sewage rates. The public need not worry about any increase. 90% of homicides committed in the Bahamas in the last 5 years were done with firearms. And in our discussion today, Morning Blend Business, we're talking with the central bank governor and the head of the Clearing Banks Association as it's Live Digital Week. A lot to talk with them about and more. It's all straight ahead this morning. I'm Dwight Strachan, and this is Morning Blend.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day. It's the start of a new way. Don't you know that it's the start of the end of the old way.
Good morning again, Bahamas. It is Tuesday, September 24th, 2024. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Again, I'm Dwight Strachan. In a moment, Duquesa Dean will be joining us. Also this morning, we'll tell you about an upcoming prostate cancer awareness seminar. In fact, that's today. We'll give you all the details about that, what you need to know. That's all ahead, but first, it's time for the overnight, the latest breaking news from while we're sleeping, and the top national and international headlines this morning. In the overnight, Prime Minister Philip Davis assuring that there are no plans to increase Water and Sewerage Corporation rates or introduce a tax on private wells. The Prime Minister speaking about this yesterday from New York, saying, quote, a headline in the Tribune has caused Bahamians to believe that the government has taken some decision to increase water prices. That is absolutely not true. There is no intention of government to raise water rates at any time, nor will we be taxing wells. The Tribune reported on Monday that the measures, which were recommendations in the corporation's 2023 to 2028 corporate business plan, were being considered by the government. The plan was referenced in a report by the Inter-American Development Bank. According to the Tribune, the IDB said that other recommendations in the corporate business plan included the imposition of taxes on reverse osmosis plants used for self-supply by companies, an increase in duty on equipment to construct private wells, and to mandate that all businesses have an active connection with WSC. The article also noted that the Minister of State in the Office of the Prime Minister, Leon Lundy, who has responsibility for WSC, said no formal decision had been made on the recommendations, but that the government was, quote, in the early phases of considering them. The water rates have not changed since 1999, but WSC depends on government subsidies to cover the costs of water production throughout the country. Since coming to office in 2021 on the heels of the COVID pandemic and during a time of drastic global inflation, the Davis administration has emphasized its commitment to relieving cost of living challenges facing many Bahamians. Claims that a water rate increase might be coming stirred concern among many. But again, the Prime Minister saying that the public need not worry. Approximately 90% of the homicides that occurred in the Bahamas over the past 5 years were committed with a firearm, with similar trends seen throughout the Caribbean. That's according to National Security Minister Wayne Monroe. Monroe saying yesterday that the alarming statistic shows the need for the region to work together to clamp down on illegal firearm trade. His comments coming during the opening ceremony of the Bahamas Interinstitutional Roundtable meetings of the Caribbean Firearms Roadmap. That was held at the police headquarters here in New Providence. Monroe saying that despite the Bahamas not manufacturing firearms, the use of illicit firearms is the main weapon of choice in homicides, youth violence, armed robberies, and other serious crimes against a person is alarming. He said the figure is significantly higher than the global average of 30% and rather disturbing considering that the Caribbean has fewer than 1%, less than 1% of the world's population. During the 3-day conclave, Monroe says the Bahamas will strengthen partnerships with participating CARICOM member states, as well as partners in Canada and the U.S. Prosecutors charging a second suspect in a double murder that took place in 2017. Former wanted suspect Perry Pickering appeared before Chief Magistrate Roberto Reckley days after he was deported from Miami to New Providence. The 32-year-old is accused of the September 25th, 2017 murders of 23-year-old Dennis Moss and 8-year-old Eugene Woodside Jr. in the Chippenham area of New Providence. According to police, Moss was the intended target, while Eugene was killed by a stray bullet that had gotten through the wall of his home. Pickering was not required to enter pleas to the charges and was denied bail. The matter was adjourned to December 12, 2024 for the presentation of a voluntary bill of indictment that will send the matter to the Supreme Court. Pickering's co-accused Lloyd Minnis was charged in 2017. Minnis, who was previously released on bail in connection with the murder charges, is currently in custody serving a sentence for an unrelated gun possession charge. His trial is scheduled for February 2025. And 2 mid-ranking policemen accused of dishonesty have had the charge against them upgraded. Assistant Superintendent Dwayne Mackey and Inspector Benjamin Moss appeared before Senior Magistrate Shaka Surville yesterday for the start of their attempted stealing trial. Basil Cumberbatch, the prosecutor, applied for the charge to be upgraded. According to Cumberbatch, the evidence supports the new charge. The officers are accused of stealing $90,000 from Willie Germain on March 26th, which belonged to Luke Telford. The matter did not proceed despite all the prosecution's witnesses being present because Moss's lawyer, K. Melvin Monroe, was off the island. As a result, the matter was adjourned to September 30th for a new trial date to be set. And a jury convicted a man of robbing and shooting a man after they went out on a date for drinks. Prosecutors allege that 24-year-old Calvin Zelaine robbed Jamal Ferguson at gunpoint and shot him after they went out for drinks April 12, 2022. According to Ferguson, he was in a romantic relationship with Elaine. However, Elaine denied that he and Ferguson were in an item when questioned by police. Elaine admitted to going out with Ferguson on the night in question. However, he claimed that he was at home when Ferguson was robbed. Justice Joyanne Ferguson will begin the penalty phase of the trial November 18th. Overseas, Israeli strikes on Lebanon killing more than 490 people, including more than 90 women and children, according to Lebanese authorities. It's the deadliest barrage since the 2006 Israel-Hezbollah war. The Israeli military warning residents in southern and eastern Lebanon to evacuate ahead of its widening air campaign against Hezbollah. Thousands of Lebanese fled the south, and the main highway out of the southern port city of Sidon was jammed with cars heading toward Beirut in the biggest exodus since 2006. Lebanon's health ministry said the strikes killed 492 people, including 35 children and 58 women, and wounded 1,645 people, a staggering one-day toll for a country still reeling from a deadly attack on communication devices last week. In a recorded message, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu urged Lebanese civilians to heed Israeli calls to evacuate, saying, quote, "Take this warning seriously. Please get out of harm's way now. Once our operation is finished, you can come back safely to your homes." Israeli military spokespeople saying that the army will do whatever is necessary to push Hezbollah from Lebanon's border with Israel. In sports, after years of playing softball in the school system for boys on New Providence, baseball is now fully entrenched at the private schools. The private schools getting their inaugural season underway yesterday. The government schools on New Providence have been playing baseball for about 10 years now, but now the private schools finally coming on board. The junior and senior boys are playing baseball this season, while the junior and senior girls remain active in softball. You can read more about this in today's Guardian Sports section. From professional baseball and Major League Baseball, the Philadelphia Phillies clinching their first National League East title since 2011. The Phillies are, for the first time in 13 years, heading to the postseason as the NL East champs. The Phillies winning the title for the first time again, clinching the division title with a 6-2 victory over the Chicago Cubs Monday night. From the NFL, rookie Jaden Daniels nearly flawless, helping his Washington Commanders with a 38-33 win over the Cincinnati Bengals. And the Buffalo Bills rolling to a 47-10 win over a struggling Jacksonville Jaguars. That's sports, and that's the overnight. Time for your first look at weather. Your first look at weather brought to you by Scotiabank. We've got a lingering boundary near the central Bahamas. It's going to help to support some shallow showers across the country today. Meanwhile, easterly moderate winds will continue across the islands as a tightening pressure between potential tropical cyclone 9 in the northwest Caribbean Sea and a lingering boundary over the Bahamas will generate some moderate to locally fresh breezes. As potential tropical cyclone 9 moves north to northeast across the southern Gulf of Mexico, the system is anticipated to develop further into a hurricane by Wednesday, becoming a major hurricane by Thursday. And given the width of the storm, there is a possibility for the northern and northwest Bahamas to experience potential impacts, strong gusty winds, elevated seas, bouts of rain showers, and squally weather. This will be from the rain bands associated with the system as it moves towards the Gulf Coast of Florida. The onset of these impacts expected to begin this afternoon and into Friday. So everyone's being advised to keep that and to monitor the system. Not a direct threat, but again, the outer bands could pose challenges. Otherwise, you've got a hot day in store, a heat advisory in effect for the entire country, and everyone's being advised to remain hydrated and limit outdoor activities. Your forecast for today for the northern Bahamas, including Grand Bahama, partly sunny and very warm. For the northwest Bahamas, including New Providence, a mix of sun and clouds. For the central and southeast Bahamas, partly to variably cloudy. Temperatures today getting up to around 88 Fahrenheit, 31 Celsius. Overnight lows tonight getting down to about 77 Fahrenheit, 25 Celsius. But the heat index will make it feel like it's about 98, 99 Fahrenheit, 38 Celsius. That's your first look at weather this morning. We'll have your extended outlook and a look at the tropics coming up in just a bit. Your first look at weather brought to you by Scotiabank. Be a fraud fighter. Sharing isn't always caring. Keep your personal and financial information private. Never share account details with anyone. A reminder from Scotiabank. It is time for break, but when we come back, we're discussing the day's top stories right here on Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9, your home for fresh news and smart talk all day.
The start of a new way. Don't you know that it's the start of the end of the old way? Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
Living with a neurological condition shouldn't define you. At Cleveland Clinic in Florida, we do whatever it takes to make life better today while discovering new treatments for a brighter tomorrow. From epilepsy management to specialized spine care and brain tumor surgery, we're delivering world-class neurology care. For the day-to-day, for the days you live for every care in the world. Visit clevelandclinicflorida.org/Caribbean.
Tired of banks forcing you to use technology to bank the way they want you to? Your convenience is important. So no matter what your banking needs, Commonwealth Bank's friendly staff are always available in branch for that personal one-on-one service. But when you choose technology, our online and mobile banking app offers you state-of-the-art functionality. The choice is yours. Commonwealth Bank. Bank the way you want.
Earning zero interest on your savings at the bank? With as little as $100, you can start earning interest on your money while you're sleeping, eating, or standing in line at the bank with the CFAL Savings Express Plan. Ready to invest? Start by putting $1,000 into our mutual funds and earn interest there too. Because at CFAL, your interest is our interest. Visit CFAL.com to start now. CFAL, growing wealth for future generations of Bahamians.
Are you tired of the same old 5K runs? Want something more? Then get ready for the Chickchani Challenge City Run on September 28th, starting at Crypto Wild. Test your strength, stamina, and spirit. It takes all of you to dodge, climb, conquer obstacles as you race through the heart of the city. Lace up and get to the Chickchani Challenge City Run. Register now on our website, chickchanichurn.com, or on our social media pages. Brought to you by Colina, Island Yogurt, Advantage Insurance, Art of Graphics, Crypto Wild, and Guardian Radio 96.9.
We wish you a new car to drive, a new home for a growing family, the trip of a lifetime. Start now with CIBC Caribbean for everything you're dreaming of this holiday season. Apply for a loan online at CIBCFCIB.com. Conditions apply.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day. It's the start of a new way. Don't you know that it's the start of the end of the old.
Welcome back to Morning Blend here on Guardian Radio 96.9. We are streaming live on GuardianTalkRadio.com and on the Guardian Radio app for smart devices. We're also on your televisions on Cable Bahamas Channel 969 and BTC Flow Channel 612. You can tweet us at morningblend969 or facebook.com/morningblend969. Text us on the Guardian Radio text line, powered by BTC, 422-4796. Standard text rate supply. Once again, I'm Dwight Strachan. Joining me now, Duquessadine.
Good morning, Dwight. Good morning, Bahamas.
Good morning. Great to have you with us.
It's great to be here, but these Tuesdays coming really fast.
Yeah, it feels like it was just 2 days
every
ago.
Tuesday. Right. It's coming really, really fast.
Boy, I tell you.
Yeah, and can you believe we're at the end of September?
It's unbelievable.
Wow. Amazing. I don't know.
I
Something
don't know
about
what to say.
time. When you're young, it seems like it's like going so
Takes
slow,
forever,
and then the minute you hit like 40, it's like...
Oh, I was going to say 25. But okay, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it speeds up every year. Absolutely.
Yeah, it just speeds up.
Remember how long a school day used to feel?
Yeah, I remember that.
Like, good Lord, it's 1:45.
Right. And now every Tuesday, I'm like, it's time to do pickup already? Because Tuesday is my pickup day.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Well,
It'll be 3 o'clock
that's the
before
way
you know
it is, yeah.
Yeah. Make the most of it, I guess.
Yeah, so better.
All right, we've got a lot to talk about this morning. Coming up in our 8 o'clock hour, we're going to be talking about a prostate cancer seminar, the second annual Men's Health Seminar with Charisma Church and Bahamas Harvest Church and Men's Mobilization Mission. And we're going to get details about that. That is happening tonight, and we'll give you all of what you need to know about that. Then later in business, we told you about this yesterday. It's Live Digital Week, and banks and credit unions and financial institutions are doing a lot to get awareness out there about living digitally and not being afraid of it. Yesterday, if you listened, we have a lot of people who are terrified, and so there's a lot of work to be done. Today, we're going to be talking with the governor of the central bank about this, and the head of the Clearing Banks Association as well. And it's great that we have the two of them together. A whole lot to talk with both of them about. Oh my goodness, we need more time.
The whole show.
We need
plus days.
Right. So that is going to be something to look forward to coming up. So a lot to get to on this Tuesday, but let's begin with what else is in the news. And in the news, people were a little freaked out about this yesterday, and for various reasons. Before we get to what the Prime Minister had to say, I think it's important to note what was reported, and this is why there was concern. So the Tribune, our competitor, the Tribune did this story. And according to the Tribune, right, which was quoting a report from the IDB, the Inter-American Development Bank, the Tribune reported on Monday that the government was considering raising rates on water and sewage. So raising rates in general and also a fee on private wells.
Oh.
The Tribune reported that the measures, which were recommendations in the WSC's 2023 to 2028 corporate business plan, were being considered by the government. The plan was referenced in a report by the Inter-American Development Bank. According to the Tribune, the IDB said that other recommendations in the corporate business plan included the imposition of taxes on reverse osmosis plants used for self-supply by companies, an increase in duty on equipment to construct private wells, and to mandate that all businesses have an active connection with WSC.
Why?
Now, here's the part that probably really freaked people out, because the IDB could recommend all manner of things.
Right.
I'm sure they do. And the IMF as well. They certainly do. But it doesn't mean that your government is going to do it.
Correct.
This is the problem. The article noted that Minister of State in the Office of the Prime Minister, Leon Lundy, who has responsibility for WSC, said no formal decision had been made on the recommendations, but that the government was, quote, in the early phases of considering them.
Really? Really?
So, Well, the Prime Minister, who was in New York, had to respond. Take a listen to what he said.
It's been brought up to my attention that a headline in the Tribune has caused Bahamians to believe that the government has taken some decision to increase water prices. That is absolutely not true. There's no intention of government to raise water rates at any time. Nor will we be taxing wells. In fact, the recommendations have been made many, many years for the taxing of wells dating back to the Pinling administration and increasing of water rate dating back to the Pinling administration. We do not intend to do either, tax wells or raise water rates.
Okay. Prime Minister Philip Davis there.
For me, an assurance would be we will not be raising, not we do not intend.
Oh, that's not good enough?
No, intend is still very subjective, and it's not a firm enough no.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm concerned that this keeps happening. Somebody, somewhere, often, a junior minister, minister of state, somebody in some office, some PR person, some spokesperson says something like this.
Right.
And causes panic.
Right.
And then the prime minister has to come back behind and say, oh, no, that was misunderstood. Somebody misspoke. Yeah. It keeps happening. And it's not just this administration. It's not just this one. But it keeps happening. Why does that keep happening?
Because they're really not following. And for anyone that's been in Toastmasters, you discuss these things in your committees before that voice comes out. So how do you...
I mean, that could be it. Although it could be, wait. You saw how they freaked out. We can't do this, so PM come back and say something different, right? It could be that too. We don't know. But something is going on.
No, it shouldn't happen.
And if you don't know, please say, I have no comment. I'll get back to you. Give me a bit. Something like that.
Correct. Which is the appropriate response.
We haven't made a decision yet. Like, is more dangerous than yes or no sometimes. Yeah. Like, wait, are you actually considering this?
Right. Absolutely. And if there has been no agreement, then there should be no comment. If this has not been discussed within your cabinet or with the prime minister giving his final approval, if that's the final approval, because that's another question. But it should not be, it shouldn't come to the public. Make sure you have it confirmed and then come out and say after discussions or whatever, we agree that this is the way forward. Because it looks really bad for the prime minister to have to come behind you. You look silly.
Right.
For the prime minister to now have to come behind you to correct something that you've said.
Wow. Let's get your reaction to it, folks. Just tell, hey, we'll give you a statement. Give me a few hours to give you a statement.
Right.
I'll send you a statement by the end of the day.
Yeah.
Something.
Correct. I totally agree with that.
But,
totally.
Early stages of considering. Oh, my God. 323-6232. 325-4316. 325-4259. Toll free 242-300-5720. Tweet us, Facebook us, text us 422-4796. All right, let's see what you're saying on the phone lines. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Strachan. Good morning to Ms. Dean Bean. Hope you're doing good this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, I won't call her name so people get used to it too. So
really?
But choose one, though. Choose one. Either Miss Dean or Miss Bean. Choose one. I like the Dean Bean thing.
I just call you the aggressor.
Okay.
There you go.
But Mr. Strachan, you see, there's something about patterns. All right. Now, when someone does something often enough, you can say it's a pattern. Now, you were saying just now, Mr. Strachan, that lower representative, lower individuals in the government or whatever throw these things, and then the public responds in a certain way, and then the prime minister comes along and says something.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pattern, Mr. Strachan, because that is how they do it. The person throws it out to test the water, and then the prime minister comes along and says what he says. It is done to see how we feel about it, how strongly we will respond to it. All right, now, the aggressor, I like how you said that the language that the prime minister used was not. It was subjective. It wasn't something that was definite and to say, well, it's not going to happen. It still kind of leaves the door open for it to happen. Right? Now, the thing about it, though, is that when it comes to this whole issue about the IDB thing, I was wondering, Dwight, if we have to go down this road, like if this is a medicine that we have to take, like is this something, the recommendation of the IDB is something that we must do, right?
No.
And if the only recommendation on the table to how to deal with this financial thing and that we coming up with is to raise these taxes on this water, right? Then what is the government offering? You know what I mean? Because if there's no other remedy but the remedy of the IDB, which one do you think we're going to take? We're going to take the only option.
I don't think it's the only option. I don't think it's the only option. In fact, Water and Sewerage has said there are other options. They've been aggressively trying to get more people to come over to them, to city water, as opposed to doing private wells. And they're talking about going to monthly billing. They think that's going to help them in some way. But I don't think it's the only option. But I think the Tribune probably highlighted some of the glaring options.
Yeah, but Dwight, trying to get more people to come over to the water and sewage thing, it's still kind of the same thing. You know, the kind of way, because right now the residence I live in, it doesn't have public water. You know, we use strictly well.
Oh.
All right, but
it's not available in your area, or is just your home doesn't?
I was about to say a few months ago, they were through the corner cutting and making the necessary preparations so that we could get it.
Okay.
Maybe it was not available in this area this year.
Right.
You see, so but they were around doing it. You know what I mean? And I was wondering, I was saying to myself, because whenever you see the government start to do little things that they haven't done in a long time, right? It to me, it's for a future plan. You know, the kind of, because after all of those years that we haven't had it in this area, because I've been residing out here for like 40 years. All right, so when you see the government finally doing something, it seems as if it was a preparation for this very thing. Because the more people you could get on the water thing, that's more taxes, because you know that was going to be something that you was going to do later on in life.
Not necessarily more taxes, but more revenue coming in, right?
Yeah,
and
but
so,
however you want to do it, right? I mean, this might sound silly too, right? But even with the business licenses, right? When they were making it so easy for at least when they made it easier for you to get a business license some time back, right? I was saying on the government personal business license like paper.
Wow.
You know, the kind of, I was saying, well, maybe further on down the line, you would see some implementations being put in place where you have to get taxed for that now. You know what I mean? It may be free in the beginning, but no matter how small your business is, somewhere down the line they're going to add some kind of taxation to that.
I mean, you're already getting
and
there are
also
already
too,
lots
like,
of taxes. Already lots of taxes.
Yeah,
But-
and even to the government slick too, because like they said that the government wasn't going to raise any taxes, right? But what they did was they like, just let's say you paying tax on a particular thing that is valued at a particular price, right? And you pay, say, 15% tax on this thing. So what the government doesn't raise the taxes. They raise the value of the thing that you have. You see? So the rate still is the same, but the value of the property is now increased. So you got to pay an increased percentage. The percentage is still the same. You know what I mean? 15% of $100,000 is less than 15% of $150,000.
Okay. All right. Well, we're restrained far from what we're talking about here, but I appreciate your call. But we're in a bad place, Duquesa, when finally they're improving infrastructure in your area and you are suspicious. And they're like, what are they up to?
That speaks volumes.
Why are they bringing water into our area? This is a problem. These people up to no good.
Yes, Dwight,
we are in
that's
a bad place.
Absolutely. And it
Oh,
speaks to
Lord.
lack of trust.
That's not good. Wow. Let's take another call. Good. We got to work on that. That's terrible. Morning, caller. You're on the air.
Morning, Duquesa.
Good morning.
Listen, Dwight. Lundy speaking out about this plans to charge increased water rates. That wasn't by accident. I think that was planned. You have to remember, this is the same Prime Minister, after the minister had spoken about the increase in national insurance, this is the same man who came out and said there will be no increase in national insurance. But didn't we get the increase in national insurance?
He said at that time. Let's be fair. He said at that time. And it was a year later. It wasn't in that budget year. I mean, but we knew it had to happen. We all knew it had to happen.
Well, we all know that the increase in water bills will happen.
No. We don't know that. We don't know that
one. The trust is eroding.
I just want to say, be careful for these snake oil salesmen. They come with a bunch of slippery talk, but you really got to pay attention.
Okay.
Trust me, Dwight, this one is coming, okay? I just want to say that.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, that's something else. Well, the tax of the private wells is quite something.
Yeah.
That's But I mean, it sounds like they would do it in a slick way. They would have, if they were to, increasing the duty on bringing in stuff.
Yeah, it won't be so straightforward, right?
How you gonna do? Come and turn off my well in my yard?
Correct.
I mean,
yeah.
But yeah, wow.
Boy, we have a lot of trust issues.
Serious problems. Need to have a family therapy session.
Yeah, for the whole country. one big therapy session.
Oh, man. Let's take another call, and we'll get your text messages. Caller, good morning. You are on the air.
Hey, good morning, Dwight, and the guest.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Yeah, Dwight. This is another case of good cop, bad cop, Dwight.
Oh, boy.
You know, because the people can see straight through this, Dwight, because this is the third time since this particular administration, if I could remember, right? They sent out a bad cop, and say, well, we can increase the tax over here. And then the good cop come out and say, no, we ain't increasing no. And to make it so obvious, Dwight, both persons sit in the cabinet. So how much cabinet meetings they just have, Dwight? They just have one over here and one over there. Because if me and you sit in the cabinet and we discuss that, what is the possibility or what we should do or say, how you can come out and say one thing, and then I can come out and disagree with what you said? We didn't have our cabinet meeting.
Mm-hmm. You remember now, there's a lot of misspeaking going on.
Right, maybe they didn't have the meeting. Maybe that's the point. Maybe he
misheard. He misheard, and so he misspoke.
Right, but this is the reason why, if that's the case, right, heads should roll.
Agree.
Right, because if you have the audacity to speak out against the cabinet, we know how this Westminster system go, right? You ain't supposed to be sitting there because you are not somebody could be trusted, and so that means you should supposed to be out of that, right? But I still seeing this situation, right? as this administration trying to play on the emotions of the Bahamian people, right? Because Mr. Lundy should be some type of consequences for these politicians' actions. They shouldn't just have the right to run up my pressure, right? And then I have to go take these pills, and then they shouldn't have that right, Dwight. We put these people them there to keep our pressure them down, right?
I hear you.
Then you all have a nice day.
Thanks a lot.
You too.
Well,
Yeah.
if it's
But I mean,
if it's like the corporation, 3 o'clock in the morning, the pressure is pretty low. So just
and then
be at 3 o'clock.
It says he has responsibility for WSC, so maybe he feels that he's the prime minister of WSC. Like, maybe that's his thing, and he could speak out on it without. I'm just trying to help him out here.
I'm sure it'll be said that it was a misspeaking. It'll be I misspoke. Early phases means we're looking at it, although we will likely reject it.
Right.
We're as shocked as you all that someone could even.
Yes,
But
that word
probably-
consideration could have been used. Another word could have been used.
We look
Another
at
phrase.
and consider everything that comes
Right,
to
something
us.
like that.
And we're like,
Yeah.
"Ha!" and throw it in the garbage.
Right.
Right? Clearly, with many other proposals that have been brought to them, they've considered it and put it under the table
Correct.
to prop up the the wobbly leg.
Yeah.
Let's read your text messages. This person says here, Dwight, the Prime Minister needs to fire Leon Lundy. He's always causing pandemonium with the people always talking out of his head. Oh, boy.
gee.
Is it always? Wow, it's a lot. So hold on. Wait, where did Leon Lundy get his information from? And please, Prime Minister Davis, drop Sir Lyndon's name. Why you try to drag him in this? Okay. Based on the Prime Minister's response, he made the Tribune's article appear to be completely false. There was obviously a discussion that was had, and it leaked out unauthorized. I don't know when these politicians will stop treating us like we're living in the 80s. Well, he did bring up Sir Lyndon. Dwight, they said they weren't going to raise the rates at the gas pumps, too. Well, again, that was last year.
And that's why the trust is being eroded. If you're not going to increase, not this year. We're not increasing. Not this year, not this budget term. Because when you come out and you then do the increase, you lose all trust in people who have heard you clearly say, there will be no increase.
Another text, this good cop, bad cop act is getting lame. The Prime Minister always comes in to save the day. Do better. This person says the Prime Minister said they won't raise VAT, but they did so with the situation on raising the water bills. I won't put that. Well, what did they? They didn't raise the VAT, but they did put it on
just
some
put it on
things
everything.
that didn't have VAT before.
Right, correct.
So I mean, I guess you could look at that as a raising, but
I'm telling
interesting. This person says here, I agree with the co-host. It's a subjected statement, just like NIB and rates still increased. If you talk something with your wife and your children here and tote news on you, same thing. But he made his point and his what? Okay, the government takes the lazier man approach to brag about what they were hired to do. We need a change. Okay, it's a little roundabout, but I think I get what you're saying. I think, Dwight, be careful to not get sucked into the trickery of the PLP. What they do and continue to do is allow the government agencies to put out statements and allow negative feedback. Once they achieve the goal, the Prime Minister comes across as the hero. The PLP knows they are in trouble.
Yeah, but he comes across as the hero temporarily because when the rate goes up or when the commitment that you made is no longer relevant because you do exactly what you say you not going to do. You're no longer the hero.
But they put it out there, so it's already, you have to get used to it.
Right.
And then at some point down the road, like, well, we have no choice. As you
correct.
see, correct. If another pipe bursts,
right.
Somebody gets sick from contaminated well water. We got to do this stuff because
so they dropping it in your conscious
well.
mind that this is a possibility.
Oh, boy. This person says that where there is smoke, there is fire. So I do believe this proposal was on the table. What is our country's financial outlook? Because every time we turn around, it's a tax here, a tax there. They gave taxes. They self right out what? They're going to tax themselves right out of office. And what's with calling the good former Prime Minister Pinling's name? Everybody's upset about that. Oh, wow. Okay. How many thousands of gallons of water are wasted at the public pumps? If Water and Sewerage is losing money, start with that. But did you hear the security, the National Security Minister say the voice note probe results will most likely be kept secret? No, I didn't hear that part.
No.
But he says he's not involved. We're going to get to him in a bit. Anyway, this person says here, with all due respect, kindly prepare for a water bill increase. We have seen this happen too often to not know what is coming next.
It's horrible. It's horrible that people hear you say there is no intent to increase, but everyone is now positioning themselves to say there is going to be. What does that say? Like, are you even listening? Are you even paying attention to the responses of the citizens of the country?
In the early phases of considering them. I really believe you should do a show on trust in governments and government officials. Well, that'd be a very negative show.
Boy.
Remember, this Prime Minister said there will be no new taxes but raised fees all over the place. The Prime Minister, the administration is no earthly good. Okay, I'm editing a lot there. This person says here, what?
I tell you, boy, these taxes give you life sometimes.
Well, I said that the water pressure is low at 3 o'clock in the morning, be at 3 o'clock in the morning. This person says, Dwight, who uses the bathroom at 3 o'clock in the morning? That person needs to go see a doctor. You've never had to go and shower at 3 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, people on shifts or people who traveling and got to catch that first flight.
Things happen.
Just can't sleep.
You have to go somewhere early. Got to go to the
airport.
The
water should be on regardless.
It shouldn't be half the pressure.
Right. Now, they did explain to us.
Yes.
That. So.
Oh, man. All right, let's take these calls and then we're going to take the break. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Hi, good morning. You're on the air.
Hello, good morning, Mr. Strachan.
Hi.
And good morning to the aggressor.
Good morning.
Yeah, Dwight, a lesson here. Of course, I just hate how we just come together for prices, but nothing else, right? But, of course, it is absurdity to raise the price on the water supply from water and sewage, right? It really is absurd given the fact that, like I live in the inner city, but I didn't grow up in the inner city, but, you pay tax. I mean, it's like almost an amenity to have running water supply, given the fact that the demographics has changed and everybody's going, even some people that can afford it, they fill up their cars and just go to the pump. And so the person made a very interesting observation in that, on East Street, I've seen when water waste, there's no urgency to fix it. And another thing, I didn't have a problem with them, but I thought it was absurd to tax the wells at people's homes, right? Because if they want to tax really and truly, this might surprise some people. We must be mindful and conscious to learn from one another. Reverse osmosis is not a natural process. It's reversed osmosis. And so I've worked around it. I don't need anybody to agree with me here. The brine water, the wastewater that is extracted, with the total suspended solids or total dissolved solids, and that is why, what you want me to tell you?
Not
it's
really.
about 75,000 or 70,000 total dissolved solids, which means that it's about twice the salt in seawater because it's concentrated brine. That's what leave when you get the product water comes out on the high pressure side. I mean, it comes out on the product side, but you have the wastewater that's not needed, which will be more than the product water, but it will go to the drain. And you should see how it destroys the metal crates, et cetera, the amount of hydrogen sulfide in it, and just the concentration of salts and other additives to it, right? So the way how an industrial reverse osmosis plant disposes this is what really counts, because this water goes back into the ground and should be some environmental regulations as to how they dispose it. Now, some of the water might go back to the sea level, but it actually has effects on marine life. Notwithstanding, if they have an industrial reverse osmosis plant and the suction is from the sea, which is not practical to do that way. That's why they have some wastewater pumps in the ground. But I just want people to know that even if you have an overflow of this reverse osmosis water and people don't know that and they ride their cars over it, it actually can seize up a lot of parts on the car. But it is not a natural water, and it's highly saline. It's not natural. I've seen it. I've seen what it can do.
Yeah, well, that's some serious stuff. Thank you very much for that information. Great information there. All right, let's take a break. We've got a lot more to talk about on this Tuesday morning. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. This is the final Tuesday. Oh, my goodness. The final Tuesday of September. Wow. We'll be back, folks. Stay with us.
Another body laying cold in the gutter. Listen to me. Don't go chasing waterfalls. Please stick to the rivers and the lakes that you're used to. I know that you're gonna have it your way or nothing at all, but I think you're moving too fast.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
Life is full of twists, turns, and defining moments that create your own unique story. However your story unfolds, we're here to help guide you through it. From every big decision to every new adventure, RBC. Visit rbc.com/Caribbean/all of you.
$7:51. Let's get your first look at traffic in, brought to you by RBC. Find your loan solution with RBC. In real-time traffic, we are seeing a number of hot spots, the usual spots like Eastern Road, heavy traffic from well east of Sans Souci if you're heading westbound. Up to about Johnson Road, then eases up a bit for you. Over on Bernard Road, also busy, especially near the schools in the area. And Prince Charles Drive at a number of spots near Elizabeth Estates, near Fox Hill Road, the intersection there, and especially on the way to Beatrice Avenue. And straight through to Robinson Road. Heavy, slow-moving westbound traffic for you this morning. Soldier Road, north and south of that intersection with Prince Charles Robinson Road, very heavy. Northbound on the way to Bernard, Wolfen Village. And then Soldier Road near Windsor Place and Old Trail. Also seeing congestion there. East Street, north and south of Soldier Road, busy for you, northbound mainly, and Independence Drive, heavy traffic both directions, east and westbound, between the roundabouts at East Street and Blue Hill Road. Blue Hill Road busy near St. Vincent, Carmichael, Soldier Road, and on that roundabout to Independence Drive. Milo Butler Highway also heavy traffic well south of Fire Trail all the way up to Tawny Williams Darling Highway, and slow-moving traffic along various spots along Tawny Williams Darling Highway. Building traffic at the six-legged roundabout at this hour. And Gladstone Road, slow-moving northbound traffic from south of Fire Trail straight through to Bahama Boulevard and John F. Kennedy Drive. Those are your hotspots right now. We'll have another update for you after the 8 o'clock news. Morning Blend Traffic brought to you by RBC. Start a conversation at rbc.com/loan/all of you. We'll be back with more Morning Blend after these messages here on Guardian Radio 96.9.
The Vibe Alive Music Group, along with Alpha Sounds, presents the best of the best. Rake and Scrape Explosion Reloaded. This is the biggest one-day all-Bohemian concert of the year. Featuring KB, D-Mac, Abby, Mama D, Fat Sean, Shine 242, The Falcons, and more. Mark your calendars. It's going down November the 2nd at Super Club Races Ground. Tickets now available at BahamasEtickets.com or both Beauty Shack locations. General admission $60. VIP, Skybox, and Skypods also available. For more info, call 394-0819 or email keepthevibealive242@gmail.com. Experience the magic once again with more legends for one night only. Come party with us November 2nd at Best of the Best. Rake and Scrape Explosion Reloaded.
You try to rest, roll with the best. For all your printing needs, there ain't no one better, no. For posters and banners, magazines and flyers. For window decals, greeting cards and newsletters. No job too big and there's no job too small. You name it, we can print it. Just give us a call. Let print your masterpiece to life.
Located in the Nassau Guardian Building, telephone 302-2361.
Do you know a fisher who braves the seas every day, bringing home a catch that feeds our communities? Nominate them now for the Anchor Awards, a night dedicated to celebrating the unsung heroes of our waters. On November 16th at the Bahama Resort, we're shining a spotlight on those who make waves, both big and small. Visit the Ministry of Agriculture and Marine Resources Facebook page and click on the link provided to submit your nomination. Let's give our fishers the recognition they deserve. Anchor Awards 2024.
Maybe it's time to explore your options. There's no harm in reviewing your mortgage arrangement and considering a better deal. CIBC Caribbean can help you narrow your search and decide. Switch your mortgage to CIBC Caribbean and enjoy a special interest rate and help towards your switching cost. Visit CIBCFCIB.com/inspired home for more information. Conditions apply.
Are you uninsured and seeking a plan that can give you quality health care at discounted rates? Unlock affordable health care with Doctors Hospital's LAMP. Enjoy unlimited primary care visits, exclusive discounts of up to 20%, and complimentary imaging and nutrition services. Visit doctorshosp.com/LAMP to register. Comprehensive, cost-effective wellness starts with LAMP.
Craving something delicious and freshly made? Dunkin' has got you covered all day your way. From savory sausage, egg and cheese to crispy bacon, ham, and even tuna, our sandwiches are made to order just for you. Choose your favorite. Bagels, croissant, toast, or muffin. Whatever you want, we've got it. Whether it's a classic grilled cheese or a hearty club, your perfect sandwich is just a bite away. Dunkin's fresh, made-to-order sandwiches made all day, every day, only at Dunkin'. The Bahamas runs on Dunkin'. Nassau. Get ready for a night you simply won't want to miss. For the first time in over 40 years, experience an evening with Eddie Menace live at the Amphitheater, Nassau Cruiseport on Saturday, October 5th. Tickets are on sale now. Go to ticketboxevents.com or go to the Nassau Cruiseport box office located in the Junkanoo Museum. Joining Eddie on stage, Strachan, Gino D, Ira Store, and the Higher Level Band. An evening with Eddie Menace live at the Amphitheater, Nassau Cruiseport, Saturday, October 5th. Get your tickets now.
Platoon! Attention! Body left! Mark turn! Left, right, in the government boots, in the government boots. Too many guns in this town. There too many guns passing round. Too many guns in this town. There too many guns passing round. And every day you're open.
We are back with Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strachan along with Duquesa Dean. I want to play a clip for you, but we don't have enough time before we go to the news. But it's going to be about this announcement that Wayne Monroe, the National Security Minister, made. I don't think it's surprising anybody, but it is disturbing and alarming. That 90% of homicides within the last 5-year period were committed with firearms. Not a big surprise, but again, everybody when we talk about these things says where are these guns coming from? We're not a manufacturing nation. It's illegal without special permissions for people to have a handgun, and many of these types of automatic weapons that they have, but they seem to be all over the place and very easy to come by apparently. And so what is really going on here? And we're not alone, we're told. The region is seeing this as well. I'm sure with only a few exceptions, most of these countries don't have anywhere near what we're seeing here, except for, again, Jamaica, perhaps, and Trinidad. But this is crazy. And are we really serious about cracking down on all of this?
Because how are they coming in?
Yeah. And again, why it's so easy.
Correct.
For even children to get them. We're going to look into that after the break for news. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Stay with us. We'll be back.
Man, they go shoot each other for fun. And when the men kill the men, all that remain is women. Which is then I go have me fun. Which is then I go draw me gun. Which is then I go take a chance. Cause the only gun I got is a gun inside me. This one have a gun, that one have a gun. Man, they go shoot each other for fun. And when the men kill the men, all that remain is women. Which is then I go have me fun. Which is then I go draw me gun. Which is then I go take a chance. I go kill them with romance. Too many guns in this town. There are too many guns passing round. What has happened to the world today? Yes, can you find a thing to say? And every night on the television, ask murder in religion. And it is really sad, but the whole world going mad. Yes, this one have a gun, that one have a gun. And they go shoot each other for fun. And when the men kill the men, all that remain is women. Which is then I go have me fun. Which is then I go draw me gun. Which is then I go take a chance.
This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news, intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversation. 96.9 FM.
Sherwin-Williams Bahamas doesn't mess about when it comes to product range and product knowledge.
If it's a new product come in the store, we walk the store and study that product.
One thing with our boss, if a new product comes in, he takes the time and he's always keeping us up to date with product knowledge. And we just had 9 weeks of different products that we had to study, and we had exams at the end of each product.
Yeah.
The only way we can sell the product effective, we have to know that product. Yeah, that helps us to relate to our customers. It gives us better knowledge to know what product to introduce to them. You understand? So we can know what product to give them to use and what product not to give them to use. So product knowledge is really key in Sherwin-Williams.
They got the keys. And the key is the product knowledge that comes with our extensive product range at Sherwin-Williams Paints, Bahamas. Find color in every day.
Platoon! Attention! Battle! March! Left, right, in the government boots, Too many guns in this town. There are too many guns passing round. Too many guns in this town. There are too many guns passing round. And every day you open the paper, all you read about is murder. And is a shooting spree, but that don't worry me. Yes, it's another gun.
We are back with Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strachan and Duquesa Dean. And we continue our discussion about the gun situation. We want to get you to that clip of Wayne Monroe talking about this. His comments coming during the opening ceremony for the Bahamas Interinstitutional Roundtable Meetings of the Caribbean Firearms Roadmap that started yesterday at police headquarters. Take a listen to this.
Recent data suggests that over a 5-year period, approximately 90% of the homicides in the Bahamas were committed using firearms. Across the Caribbean, similar trends persist, and according to the Small Arms Survey 2023 of the region, firearms are being used in 70% of all homicides regionally. This figure is significantly higher than the global average of 30%, and rather disturbing, considering that the Caribbean has less than 1% of the world's population.
The United States shares the Caribbean's deep concerns about firearms trafficking negatively impacting their communities and recognizes the urgent need to address this issue collaboratively. Transnational criminal groups and drug traffickers continue to illicitly disseminate small arms and ammunition throughout the Caribbean. threatening our collective security, undermining regional stability, and driving irregular migration across the region. To help address the problem, the U.S. Department of Justice recently appointed a special coordinator for Caribbean firearms prosecutions, who's working closely with the CARICOM Crime Gun Intelligence Unit to better build U.S. prosecutions against illicit firearms traffickers.
Okay, so that's the U.S. talking there as well. All right, so let's get your reaction to it, folks. We know we have a problem. We've been talking about this for many, many, many years, but I don't know. I don't know if we've made any real progress here. And it just seems like gun violence is showing no signs of letting up. And I'm not certain that the public is sufficiently fed up about it either.
No.
Instead, the opposite is happening. More people feel they need to be armed in order to protect themselves.
Right.
And I don't know. So what do we do?
That's a very good question.
While you think about it, let me give all the numbers. Folks, call in and share your views as well. 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. Call us toll free, 242-300-5720. Tweet us, Facebook us, text us, 422-4796. This texter says here, give people who murder 4 life sentences, but plus 99 years. I bet they wouldn't kill then. Okay, I hear you. Get tougher on it.
I just think that the challenge is that those who are committing the crime, the murders, and that sort of stuff are not really afraid of the consequences. Like, they're not afraid to die. They're not afraid of going to jail. So what do we do when we're faced with a situation like that? And maybe it's because our enforcement of the law, or not even enforcement of the law, that our judicial system, in its current state, does not allow, in many instances, for speedy trials, and for those consequences to almost immediately kick in, like, within 3-6 months or whatever, and then you get bail for multiple offenses, or like there definitely needs to be a tightening of the consequences, Dwight, immediately, because right now it's like this jokey, and so there's no fair, except they have us in fair.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
And we've heard this before. We've heard that the government's pursuing legal action against the firearm companies, and the countries that manufacture, and all these things. But what will come out of it?
I don't know. I don't know if did you watch recently, within the last maybe 4 weeks, there was a shooting in the U.S. where a young boy at 17 went to school and was able to smuggle his rifle in and shot some people.
Every week.
And they persecuted his dad.
Yes.
So how do you feel about having parents have that sort of responsibility for underage? Because, some of the people here are 16, 17, 15. Could that be a consequence that could help make a difference? I don't know.
Perhaps most of these people are not. I mean, there are a lot of, yes, you see cases with teenagers, sure, but these are big grown men, 20s and 30s and 40s, and women too. So what then?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, hey, why not? But you'd be surprised. A lot of people are very surprised with the things their children get into. But hey, let's take these calls and see what you say. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, DeQuesta.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Basically, this, we have to look at this thing as a domino or progressive, situation. First and foremost, we are trying to curb crime in this country, especially as it pertains to guns, and yet the legislation has not kept pace with what we are actually trying to accomplish. There are two things that jumps out right away at me, and that is, to go into court, and then because of the laws, you can get bail for having a gun, which is deemed an illegal firearm for the average citizen. But yet you give these persons bail. When are the legislators actually going to look at the law and strengthen the laws? And if you say 18 years for the crime, then it's 18 years. We're not serious about this thing. Then secondly, where are you going to house these persons? Because you find that there is a proliferation of guns in the hands of not just adults, but children and teenagers. But yet we don't have any facilities to actually put these persons in who have actually perpetrated these crimes. So in essence, what I'm saying is you can't come with this Band-Aid approach and approach it from one angle, and yet the other angles are not being addressed adequately. We need to look back at the laws. We need to have the legislators strengthen the laws, and then let's see where we can attack it from that end before we can get progress in this thing. But thanks for taking my call this morning.
Thank you very much.
you.
Yeah, interesting points there.
Yep.
Let's take another call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Are you there? Good morning, caller. You're on the air. No? Okay. Call us back. 323-6232. 325-4316. 325-4259. This texter says here, if you feel like you live in a war zone, well, then you must get a gun. Well, it's often a mindset, right? It's just not necessarily the reality. And you put yourself in these situations often, it seems. This person says it's right. So if what is this? No, that's different. No, texter, you're not looking at this correctly. I can't read this text. No, they're not understanding what was going on there. They're bringing up something that's not related and not accurate. But I do encourage you to read the Coroner's Act and see what's what. But this person says, a great show as usual. Actually, in the Bahamas, we have a penalty. It's called the Court of Public Opinion. Once you are guilty in the Court of Public Opinion, as soon as you get bail, you'll get justice, I guess. I'm editing. Guns are the weapons of choice in most, if not all, modern countries. I don't think you're right. And that's what the minister is talking about. Right? That's not right compared to the average in the rest of the world. Maybe in the Caribbean, 90%, but they're saying it's 30% in other parts of the world. So that's not right. And what's your point? What's your point? That's okay. Let's take this call, then we got to take a break. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Validate with stock, voice allow with you and your guest, Dwight.
Oh, wow, Brayman, everyone's been asking about you.
Guess what happened? The storms the other day hit my radio, and I haven't gotten one as yet. But what I can't understand right now...
We're glad to hear that you're okay. We're all glad to hear that you're okay.
Yeah, thank God. But the thing is, I'm not getting through to anybody on my telephone other than you. I don't know why.
Your phone knows what's important. Okay. Well,
much love you all. Take good care.
Okay.
I'm not listening. I don't have a radio to listen yet, so I'm working on something.
Oh, boy. Okay. Well, I hope the phone company and everybody hears you and will sort you out. All right. Wow. Well, that's a good point to take a break at. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Stay with us.
Left, right, in the government boots.
RBC. Life is full of twists, turns, and defining moments that create your own unique story. However your story unfolds, we're here to help guide you through it. From every big decision to every new adventure, RBC. Visit rbc.com/Caribbean/all of you.
Are you ready to be inspired? Get ready for the events of the year. Inspire Her 2024 is back and better than ever. Join us at the luxurious Atlantis Hotel Paradise Island on October 10th for an evening filled with inspiration, empowerment, and connection. Hear from leading women activists, entrepreneurs, CEOs, and more as they share their stories, insights, and wisdom. Get tickets now in the Alive Events app. Corporate packages and vendor opportunities are also available. Inspire Her 2024 Women's Conference, October 10th. See you there.
Fall is falling into place and everything you need is on sale now at BWF. Slash prices as the leaves fall. Frightfully low prices as you get ready for the season. Enjoy ridiculously low prices and save big this fall with BWF Mega Blowout Sale and 10 Sale. Up to 50% off Friday, September 27 and 10 Sale Saturday, September 28, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Huge savings include appliances, ductless AC units, generators, compressors, water pumps, automotive supplies and accessories, lawn and garden supplies, power tools, kitchen and outdoor supplies, barbecue grills, bakeware, household supplies, floral decor, junk canoe and craft supplies, and so much more. BWF, we are more than just our name. Number 13 Wilton Street, telephone 394-0004 or 6. Check us out on Facebook. We ship to the Family Islands.
Oh, what fun! The most wonderful time of year is almost here. If you're dreaming of a car, new home, land, travel abroad, or big gifts to share, CIBC Caribbean will help you get your wish list prepared. Start early. Apply now for a loan online at CIBCFCIB.com. Conditions apply.
At Wendy's, we are different. We don't just use beef. It's fresh, never frozen. Our burgers are square because we never cut corners. Served hot off the grill with fresh lettuce, tomatoes, onions, and American cheese. We believe in fast food done right. Always serving fresh, never frozen beef. Order a hot, juicy Dave single, double, or triple. Made with fresh, never frozen beef. Now only at Wendy's. Different inside and out.
Screws and Fasteners World, Balfour Avenue and Palm Beach Street, has those hard-to-find fasteners for you right now. You can find stainless steel regular hex, carriage bolts, galvanized bolts, threaded rods, nails, self-tap screws, sex bolts, anchor bolts, turnbuckles, masonry tools, hand tools, and weed whacker strings. Check out the rope selection and car body fasteners, too. Special orders are welcome. It's your #1 fastener store. Screws and Fasteners World, Balfour Avenue and Palm Beach Streets. Call 326-1976.
Do you have uncontrollable debt? Are you ready to make that move to Fidelity for a stress-free future? These loans have a built-in savings plan that pays you unbeatable interest. Ask about our debt consolidation loans today. Call 356-7764.
Fidelity, we're good for you.
Got another check of your weather for today, brought to you by Sherwin-Williams Paints. Here's what's happening. We've got a lingering boundary near the central Bahamas that's going to help support some shallow showers across the country today. Meanwhile, easterly moderate winds will continue across the islands as a tightening pressure between potential tropical cyclone 9 in the northwest Caribbean Sea and that lingering boundary over the Bahamas will generate moderate to locally fresh winds. So as potential tropical cyclone 9 moves north to northeast across the southeastern Gulf of Mexico, the system will likely develop into a hurricane by tomorrow and become a major hurricane by Thursday. And given the width of the system, there's a possibility for the northern and northwest Bahamas to experience potential impacts from gusty winds, elevated seas, and bouts of showers and squally weather from the rain bands associated with the system. So keep that in mind for the latter part of the week. Your forecast for today for the northern Bahamas, including Grand Bahama, partly sunny and very warm. For the northwest Bahamas, including New Providence, a mix of sun and clouds. And for the central and southeast Bahamas today, partly cloudy to variably cloudy. We're looking at highs getting up to around 89 Fahrenheit, 31 Celsius. Overnight lows tonight getting down about 77 Fahrenheit, 25 Celsius. The heat index will still be a factor today, though, making it feel like it's about 98 Fahrenheit, 37 Celsius. In your extended outlook for tomorrow, Wednesday, partly cloudy to cloudy across the northern and northwest Bahamas and the Central Islands. A mix of sun and clouds across the southeastern Bahamas. Then Thursday, cloudy to overcast, becoming partly cloudy to cloudy across the central and southeast Bahamas. And Friday, cloudy to overcast with a noted increase in shower and thunderstorm activity Thursday and Friday. Again, with the tropics, we're all watching potential tropical cyclone 9, but there's also an area of interest being monitored for development shower and thunderstorm activity associated with a tropical wave near the Cabo Verde Islands. Has become more concentrated, and the system has about an 80% chance of development through the next 7 days. We'll keep an eye on all of that for you. But that's your Morning Blend weather check brought to you by Sherwin-Williams Paints. Sherwin-Williams Paints got you covered for all of your painting and equipment needs. Visit Sherwin-Williams Paints online or in-store today. And we've got another check of your traffic brought to you by RBC. Find your loan solution with RBC. Mile Butler Highway, still heavy traffic for you from Bellert Road straight through the Fire Trail roundabout all the way up to Tonic Williams Darling Highway. That's going to extend to the Six-Legged roundabout as well. Multiple issues there, northbound and eastbound on John F. Kennedy Drive. Southbound, heavy traffic on New Providence Highway. And southwestbound from Farrington Road. Over on Gladstone Road, still busy as well. All the way up to Bahamar Boulevard and John F. Kennedy Drive if you're heading northbound. Slow-moving traffic for you for Carmichael Road, westbound, and especially eastbound as you get closer to Blue Hill Road. That's busy from St. Vincent all the way up to Independence Drive. Independence Drive still heavy traffic westbound at this hour. And Prince Charles Drive, the major intersections, and Eastern Road from about San Souci to Johnson Road still slow-moving westbound traffic. Downtown looking busy for you. West Bay Street heading towards Nassau Street. And West Bay near Saunders Beach at the roundabout with New Providence Highway. Slow-moving eastbound traffic. That's your real-time traffic and your Morning Blend traffic alert brought to you by RBC. Start a conversation at rbc.com/loan/all of you.
This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news, intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversation. 96.9 FM.
I feel all broke up, ain't sleep all night. My body's aching, no appetite.
We are back with Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strachan along with DeQuesta Dean. And this morning, we are going to get details about an upcoming, it's tonight, second annual Men's Health Seminar. Here to tell us all about this, we're very pleased to welcome back to the show Dr. Marcus Cooper. Good morning, sir. Always a pleasure.
Good morning, Dwight. Good morning, DeQuesta. And good morning, Bahamas.
All right, so second annual, and this is, of course, Prostate Cancer Awareness Month, and that is a major health issue for men. Let's talk about it and what we can expect at the seminar.
Okay, so this, as you said, Prostate Cancer Awareness Month, but the organizers, Kevin Harris, and being hosted by Pastor Mary at Bahamas Harvest Church, we have decided to expand it a bit. So I'm going to be talking more about more than just prostate issues. I'm going to be talking about men's health in general.
Driving here, you're hearing about this issue with violence, which is an assault on our men. And if you're lucky enough to get past that, you now have an assault on our men with their health. The men in the Bahamas are very sick. And I walk through the hospitals, people come to my office, we're seeing cancer at alarming rates, not just prostate cancer, colon cancer, pancreatic cancer, stomach cancer, alarming rates of hypertension and diabetes, obesity, heart attacks, strokes, kidney failure. And so, we felt like it was necessary to have a forum where men could get some information about all of this stuff and ask their questions and have their questions addressed and get information. Knowledge is power. Women are used to going to the doctor. They have kids. They have to see an obstetrician, and they have pap smears, and everybody gets hyped up about breast cancer awareness, and so women are, get a lot of attention. Men are just kind of lingering out there, and we feel like we're masculine, and we don't really have to, we're holding it down, got broad shoulders, but we are bringing attention to the issues that men face, health issues. We want our men to be healthy. We have big shoes that we have to fill. People are depending on us. Our families are depending on us. We are business owners, and we have staff that's depending on us. And we need to stay healthy. And we need not, some men, they kind of put their health off until they retire, and then they retire and they get sick, and it sucks up all their finances. So I'm going to be talking about a whole lot of things. I'm just here to encourage the men to come out.
This is some scary stuff.
Be proactive about your health.
If it's not gun violence, car accidents, and then all those health issues, I mean, everything is trying to take the guys out.
Exactly. We will be an extinct population, an endangered species, if we don't do something about, some of the issues that are facing the men of our country.
So I hear you talking, about men, that's adults, right? As a mom, with a girl and a boy, I've been guilty of taking my daughter to, like when she was younger, because they're adults now, to her, visits and all that sort of stuff, but not necessarily the same degree of concern for my son, even though he did annuals. And so to tackle this for young boys now, like how can we encourage moms and fathers to begin taking their teenagers or getting their kids in a routine of doing these annual exams so it doesn't seem taboo or weak for a man to do it? What encouragement could you give in that regard so we could start to see a difference in the years to come?
Right. So it is a culture, right? So, women have breast things to do, and they have pap smears and things like that to do. But all of the other issues that affect women also affect men. And so just taking your son to have an annual physical if he's an adolescent or whatever, and getting him into the habit of seeing a doctor once a year will probably make a lot of a difference. Teaching him to acknowledge and to express when he's not feeling well, and not to just minimize it because, you're a boy, you're going to become a man, suck it up.
Right.
If you're not feeling well, and if it's something that is persisting, then go and get it checked out. Yes. It's not weak to say I'm not feeling good and something is hurting, it's been hurting for a while. Before it gets to a point where it's just debilitating.
Yeah.
You're laying in the bed and you can't move. If you start to feel things that don't seem normal and it's persisting, get into a habit of getting it checked out.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think is happening? Because, you're here often, right? And other doctors are here often. They're telling everybody the same story. You see it all the time. Once guys hit 50, 60, they're coming in here, they're dying. But the younger folks aren't listening. What needs to be done so people can get? It's the same pattern over and over and over.
Younger folks, unfortunately, Dwight, are not listening to Guardian Radio 96.
What?
They're not. So maybe I should be promoting this message to some of the other radio stations.
No, don't say that.
They're not interested. They're not interested in current events. They're not interested in issues that matter. And health is one of them, right? They're interested in social media and music and entertainment.
By the way, our numbers don't what you're saying, but maybe they're not paying attention. They're not paying attention.
I think they just don't think it's going to happen to them. You know, when you're young, you feel like you are invincible. And so I think a lot of people think, well, that's not going to happen to me until it actually happens. I mean, I think that's a mindset.
I think women are better at taking care of themselves. And there seems to be a gap when it comes to the men, at least being interested and attentive to getting themselves checked out. And the men seem to have these hang-ups. I don't want somebody probing me and feeling me up and all this foolishness, right? So they just don't come. And what we have to do is consistently reiterate the message before something happens to them that's catastrophic, right? So if you keep telling them, I mean, we've done a remarkable job at the Colon Cancer Campaign. I've been doing that now for probably 14 years. And now it seems it's not as frightening, I guess, for men and invasive as they thought it was to have a colonoscopy. Now it's become the thing to do. You know what I mean? Get your colonoscopy done, bro. People are dying. So, we continue to push this message. This particular forum that we're having this evening at 7 o'clock is giving men the opportunity to get some issues. I did a promo. I kind of slapped the guys up a little bit, because men are dying. And they're unhealthy and they're sick, and sometimes they don't correlate their unhealthy lifestyle with what's happening.
Correct.
We'll talk more about the seminar in just a bit, but let's talk about the patterns. We have them now, so you can look at your mom or grandmother and grandfather and father and know, right, that this issue that affected them will very likely be your problem very soon.
Sure.
Let's talk more about people understanding that and looking right there, not necessarily a mirror, but looking into your future with your family history.
Yeah. So one of the biggest things that Bahamians in general face is this issue with high blood pressure and diabetes, right? If you've got a mother who has high blood pressure and your father has high blood pressure, it's very likely that you're going to have high blood pressure.
Well, before you go further with that, why do most people think that you get high blood pressure because you eat too much salt? Is it a genetic gene?
Eating salt can definitely increase your blood pressure.
Right.
We have this thing called essential hypertension, which we know is sort of hereditary and it runs in families. Okay. And so similar with diabetes. I mean, if you've got diabetes on both sides of your family or even one, you need to be careful, right? You cannot eat what everybody else eats. If you have high blood pressure and you're eating foods that are high in salt, it's very likely that you're going to develop high blood pressure, whether you claim it or not.
Right, that's important to talk about.
Right, people think that, if I start taking this blood pressure medication, I can't get off of it. We don't have a cure for hypertension. We don't have a cure for diabetes. What we do know is that these things, over time, can kill you. And if they don't kill you, they can definitely debilitate you to a point where you have some chronic illness. You develop, heart failure, or you have a heart attack and you need a stent. And you're having chest pain and the diabetes, you get numbness in your fingers and your toes, you can get an amputation, you get kidney failure, you end up on dialysis. I mean, there's so many issues that develop from this high blood pressure and diabetes, which we know are starting earlier and earlier every year. You combine that with the obesity that is an epidemic in this country, and you've got a triple threat that we are dealing with that is being exacerbated by our poor lifestyles, our poor eating. Listen, when did rice become a breakfast food?
Oh, my goodness.
It is?
Oh,
yes.
Yeah, all over.
I went away to school in the 90s, and rice was like a dinner food.
Right.
I come back, and you go to get breakfast, and people are getting corned beef and rice.
You find that more than grits now.
Yeah.
Really?
Like, when did that happen?
I don't know.
So we're eating this stuff day in, day out, day in, day out.
And they'll go back and have rice for dinner.
Exactly. And maybe even for lunch.
Well, how do we deal with the fact that there are so many additives that cause food addiction? Because even with hearing that diabetes is starting earlier and high blood pressure is starting earlier, you have people the kids are going into puberty earlier, boys and girls, and it's connected to what we eat, the hormones, right? So how does that play a part in the unhealthy state that we find ourselves in? Because if an addiction is an addiction.
Yeah, I mean, that adds to it, right? If we could just get some low-hanging fruit, let's just do some basic things, right? And I do believe that the onus is somewhat on the government to start to get the population healthier. The government spends millions of dollars in healthcare every year. Our healthcare system is overwhelmed. Our dialysis units are overwhelmed. We are seeing, kidney failure at alarming rates. The obesity statistics that they put out recently, childhood obesity, we're seeing these things.
Yeah.
The government needs to step in and say, look, we're going to start making healthier food cheaper. And unhealthy food more expensive.
Yes.
Right?
Please.
Make those hard decisions.
Yes.
Well, you saw the backlash over a few years back. They proposed a sugar tax.
Absolutely.
But people were...
Who were people?
Some callers, although we've been told they only represent 12 people in the population.
But you have to when you're 30 years old and you're drinking a Coke soda 2 and 3 times a day, it's not a big deal. But when you're 50 years old and you've been drinking 2 or 3 Coke sodas a day for 30 years,
right?
Now you have a problem that if you don't have insurance, the government has to take care of your problem.
Wow. I want to read this message and then we'll talk more about the seminar. This person says here, as a mother of 3 sons, I've ensured that I've taken my sons to have all their annuals. 2 of them are adults and now they are in the habit of going for their annuals. As parents, we need to push the message. We also need to change the discussion where we teach males that they shouldn't cry, feel hurt, or visit a doctor. What you were saying earlier.
Absolutely.
All right, so the seminar, this is for men only.
Men only. Women stay home.
No, you want the women to send their men, right?
Send them.
Yes.
Drop them off. Collect them at the end. But we want the women to stay home. We want the men to come out. We want the men to feel free to discuss their issues. We're going to be talking about erectile dysfunction, which is, in my opinion, a lot more common than I thought it was, even in young men.
Wow.
People are, and I did a promo, men are buying up this juice and these pills to try and get it up. And
gas stations even.
Yeah. So, not disparaging the gas stations, but they're getting these things because the tools ain't working. And the tools are not working because you probably have high blood pressure or diabetes or both, and your tools are not working. So covering up with some pills and some juice is not the issue. You need to get to the root of the problem.
Yeah. How open were people last year when you first did it? Were they really willing to put everything on the table?
Yes, they were. It was an awesome time. Great. And I stayed very late to answer questions. We had a few women in the room.
But and you told them last year, stay home. Don't listen.
They infiltrated. They infiltrated, and they at the beginning they asked more questions than the men. Wow! Because when women get in the room, they kind of take over the spot. So we realized that next time we got to have this has to be an event just for men. Men have issues.
Yes.
They really do, and they're struggling with things. They may not connect. They may not go to a doctor, and when they do, they may not connect with the doctor. The doctor doesn't give them enough time to say, this has been bothering me. I'm having this pain. I'm seeing blood in my stool. They don't get the opportunity to, and so they just forget about it.
Right.
So this is an opportunity. If you're having an issue, men, come. Let's talk about it. Let me give you some information and some answers.
Right. So will men be able to anonymously submit questions for answers? Sometimes you don't want to ask a question in an open environment. Can they either email questions in advance today, or maybe when they come today, do you have a station that's set up that they could just write the question and put it in a bucket?
I will talk to Kevin about that. Maybe that's something that we can do. Okay. But I want men to know you are not alone.
Yes.
I don't care what problem you have in.
Yes.
There are tons of men who are having the same problem. So we can all benefit by opening up the conversation, asking the question, because you'd be surprised at how many men are having the same issue that you are and haven't been able to get an answer.
And this is totally free?
Totally free.
Tell us exactly where tonight.
Bahamas Harvest Church West in the R&D Plaza, 7 o'clock. Let's do it, man. Stop doing foolishness.
Don't need to register. Just show up.
Just show up.
Yep. How many can you accommodate?
Plenty.
That sanctuary big.
Yeah. We got a lot of space downstairs, upstairs. I'm going to talk about everything that I think men need to be concerned about. I mentioned the promo. I'm going to be talking about cannabis, right? So the government is legislating or legalizing this thing for medical use, but we already have a high rate of cannabis use in our young men. And young men don't understand what cannabis does to your sexual performance. Now, some men will say, boy, I feel really good when I smoke weed, but yes, because there's some sensory enhancement that happens. But chronic cannabis use has been shown in numerous studies affects sperm count. It can cause erectile dysfunction. And so men who are seeing sometimes they're having these issues don't understand. They don't put two and two together.
Right.
So a new area that we're going to be talking about, so young men as well. We got something for you, and we'll be covering as much as we can.
Okay. Again, it's 7 o'clock, Bahamas Harvest Church West in the R&D Plaza. Guys, come on out.
Especially the texters and callers who often say that there's nothing for men. This is something for men. Now, it's time for you to take action. Show up and get the information.
Definitely. Second annual Men's Health Seminar. Dr. Marcus Cooper, thank you so much for being here this morning.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Have a good one.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're talking with Central Bank Governor John Roll and the chair of the Clearing Banks Association, Gowan Bowe, together. Wow. Amazing. We need 2 hours for this. Stay with us, folks.
I got the flu. Doctor, tell me what to do. I got the flu. Oh, doctor, please tell me what to do. Wait.
This is Guardian Radio, 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas. This is Guardian Radio, 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
Good morning and welcome to Morning Blend Business on this Tuesday, September 24th, 2024. Welcome back to our Morning Blend listeners. Once again, I'm Dwight Strachan along with Duquesa Dean. And this morning, we told you about this yesterday. It's the start of Live Digital Week, a special promotion. And here to tell us all about it, very pleased. This is a great honor to have both the governor of the central bank, John Roll, and we have the chair of the Clearing Banks Association, Gowan Bowe, who's also with Fidelity Bank. Great to have you both with us. Good morning, gentlemen.
Thanks for the invitation.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
All right, Governor Roll, it's a pleasure. Okay, so let's talk about this. We have a lot to get to, but let's start with what Live Digital Week is all about and why it was felt this was necessary at this time.
Well, if I can begin at a very high level, it's about public education around using the digital channels to access financial services and about extending the reach of financial services throughout the Bahamas, as well as getting the Bahamas more enabled to reduce dependency on cash and physical checks. And we have a two-part approach. The public education campaign, which focuses on the awareness and tackling the concerns that individuals have. But then there's also a very important heavy lifting around how we improve the state of payments, whether we're talking about the speed and efficiency, the levels of access individuals and businesses have to financial services, the ease of banking. In some cases, we know that some of our laws need to be updated. And, one of the tangible, milestones that we've set for ourselves is eventually seeing the outcome where all Bahamians experience what we say is a fast payment experience, where in real time payments are being originated and received, not just in a digital wallet or sand dollar sense, but throughout the banking system. And so this week really is heightening the focus on public education, but continuously reminding ourselves that we're accountable now to see some tangible improvements, further tangible improvements in the state of banking and payment and financial services in this country.
Right.
What I would say is a bit of demystifying what digital means, right? Because very often when you say to a customer to move to digital channels, it immediately moves to, a depersonalization of banking or removing, that sort of interaction with the bank. And, I look at it in a different way sometimes. When I look back, and maybe I'm showing my age a little bit, traveling when I went to school, you used to have to send a letter, right? And that would take how long? Then you might be fortunate enough to have a phone with an international calling card. But nowadays, people keep in contact with WhatsApp, Facebook. They keep in contact with video conference tools and facilities. So we've evolved in the way we even exchange with one another. When we think about banking, it's kind of, trying to draw the correlation that just because things are moving in a different way, it isn't a bad thing, that it can actually improve your experience. So if my focus is efficiency and getting things done, having an audit trail, so many different things we'll talk about today, then digital allows more of that. And it is for the banks to demonstrate that, yes, this isn't an actual removal of customer service. It is changing the focus of customer service from what are costly but mundane tasks to value-added tasks that really enhance the experience, right? So it's trying to bring the, I'm going to say, society around. And we know that knowledge is power. And sometimes the fault that we have as financial institutions in particular, we roll things out without properly preparing, properly educating, and properly socializing the initiative. And we assume, because everyone knows how to go online, even the grandmothers are still talking with, like I say, the FaceTime, etc., that everyone knows. And when you have the conversations, particularly with some of the older citizens, you understand that for them it's about comfort, that I'm not sure that I trust. I don't mind talking on the phone with Dwight, although with AI now, I don't know if it's Dwight I'm talking to. But that's sort of a social being, but now my cash. So it's around, bringing what I'm going to say, the understanding of how this is actually a better, more secure, and actually an enhanced mechanism that allows for better tracking, trailing, and recovery if there are any issues that come about.
So what is the buy-in? Is it only grandmothers who are resistant? I speak to a lot of younger people who also are skeptical about digital banking and doing things online only.
But what is digital?
Let me put it this way. A healthy bit of cynicism is a good thing. People are concerned in many cases that the internet services in the Bahamas are not fully reliable. But even in that space, we have to recognize that in the last decade, the volume and the share of transactions that we are already doing online has increased. So to the extent that there are concerns about whether individuals understand how to use the systems, education can tackle that. There are also concerns in many cases around the security of the systems. These systems are secure. The banking sector in or the financial sector in all of our countries, if you listen to the cases where you sometimes have those unfortunate security lapses, they've tended to be more in sectors, even in the Bahamas, they've tended to be in sectors where there's less attentiveness to the risks that come, the risk from, having unsecure systems. So in the financial space, a lot of energy and effort goes into keeping the system secure. And a part of this education campaign is exposing individuals to that, but also showing them where their responsibility lies, simply in terms of how they provide passwords and other protection for their accounts, how they monitor their accounts, but also to appreciate that the record keeping that is automatically generated from such transactions trail make it so much easier to recover if you do encounter fraud, because we have to be realistic. At some point or the other, we've all experienced some fraud or the other, but at some point or the other, we've also all probably lost a few $100 bills that dropped out of our wallets. And I want you to contrast the experience of how you went about trying to track down and recover the fraud in one instance versus the other, even if the funds were forcibly taken from you in a robbery. So we need people to understand, what the safeguards are, how they contribute, and the kinds of effort that financial institutions are putting into it. And to recognize as well that there has been tremendous progress, and there continues to be tremendous progress in this Bahamas in terms of the quality of our infrastructure, which is not to discount the fact that we want to be a lot further than we are, but it is not to deny the quality of what we already have.
Yeah, but a lot of people seem to be. I think people get it, but we seem to be really pushing it in some instances where people are going all in, and you're hearing cashless all the time, and we're reducing the options.
Well,
what can be done about
that? One,
yeah, Governor Roll.
I say this: 100 years from now, cash could still exist even in the Bahamas. So there is no objective about eliminating cash. But the bottom line is that, to the extent that any business for security and other reasons decide that they will only accept digital payments, we should allow those businesses to do that. But from a financial inclusion point of view, make certain that everyone in the country has the means to engage with those businesses electronically. That's a very important part of what's going on in terms of making certain. So when you look at like a product such as the $1 or the digital wallets, for example, and all the work that has gone into facilitating easier access for individuals to open up accounts, it's about making certain that you don't get left out when businesses go digital, because we do not want any business to be saying that they're going cashless as a pretext of saying they do not want a certain category of customers frequenting their establishment. You tackle that by making certain that every category of customer has the means to pay digitally. And I think if you pay attention, there is a lot of emphasis on that. Now we got to make certain that all of the businesses too, who want to go more cashless, perhaps not fully cashless, but more cashless, that they see the benefits and they have the ability to set up those relationships with their financial institutions, and they can understand, what the cost benefit analysis is that's involved in that process.
Well,
and remember that the family island businesses are included in that. And I keep saying, inject Acklands and Crooked Island sometimes a lot more into the conversation, and then you would realize the immensity of the issues when we start to look at how important it is to get everybody into that space where they're experiencing the same level of service and access.
Right.
What I would add, because I think you started by, the apprehension even with younger persons.
Yeah.
And what does digital mean? I think, again, because we use a term without having the very basics that people are used to. Everyone understands a debit card and credit card because they see the physical instrument.
Right.
But even those are now, when you look at the card companies, moving to say, well, what do you not leave home without nowadays?
Your phone.
Your phone. So they're looking at how do I tokenize and create that. We've seen digital wallets emerge, and those have stored values. And so Sand Dollar, as an example, is no different than your physical currency, just in a digitized form that is sitting in the phone. So if we start by saying, well, what are the things you already know around digital banking? So you've been used to using the ATM, even if it was only periodically, even if you were an older person and had the card, never used it, you knew that it existed. So what are the functionalities of this card that you may not have had an appreciation for? What's the difference between a debit card and a credit card? You know, one, you can only spend what you have. The other one, you have credit that is extended to you. When you move to the online banking platform and to what the governor referenced, you know, most people that speak about online banking experience speak to the frustration of the security, ironically, because they're saying, I always have to have my other device because it wants the dual factor authentication. It wants me to put in my PIN. But those are the things that are actually protecting you against having bad actors that are trying to infiltrate. We as a society are very familiar and sometimes too familiar. So how often do you hear and see, here, see my bank card, go take off this couple of dollars to me.
Take a picture of it.
And you don't
send
have quite the understanding that, okay, if it was able to be done in a one-time transaction, that's fine. But when you give your PIN, it's called personal identification number, right? So when you've given that away, you've exposed yourself. So when we talk about what is seen as sometimes the more, what I'm going to say, complex instruments, it's really bringing those down to, okay, show me how to use it, right? Because if I have an understanding, and something the governor said earlier, how do I correlate what I do now with what I can do digitally? So what do I mean by that? I'm used to going into BPL and paying my bill in cash, and I see my receipt immediately. I can do that by an online transfer. BPL has accounts set up in nearly all of the banks. So I can actually, without even transferring to another bank, I can literally put in my payment, and I can go even onto my BPL bill and see that the payment has been applied within 24 hours. I'm used to being able to give my money on to my friend. Again, I can now send that through an ACH transfer. I can go online and say that it's there. And one of the things that was mentioned is how do we speed that up? But if persons have been paying attention, they will have seen that, yes, there's no transfer that you initiate correctly that doesn't get settled within that day. And the reason being is because the clearinghouse, and having the understanding, has multiple sessions that run through the day. So when I initiated my bank, your bank is going to receive it at latest in the closing session at the end of the day. So by that evening, you're going to have your funds.
Right.
So we sometimes create a tempest in a teacup because we're saying it doesn't do what I'm used to it doing. Well, that's where us as financial institutions, and even with the support of the regulator, because I smile, when you're introducing, you're saying you have almost like this is a David and Goliath. I'll let you figure out which one was David, which one was Goliath. But the reality is that the regulator is there to protect the stability of the system. The institutions are there wanting stability in the system because they want to be in existence. So we actually have a cohesive relationship. It doesn't mean that we don't have opposing views. At times, it doesn't mean that the regulator doesn't have to take harder stances in certain areas for the benefit of protecting the wider system when it deals with one particular institution. But I think it's important for the public not to see it as, okay, this is a collusive effort to convince me. It's not. It's saying that it is an initiative that is supported not only by the institutions, but by the regulator, but these are the reasons why. Right. So we are bringing it back to an explanation point. And I think it's beneficial that when you do have common voices, and like I said, it's not to say that there won't be actions where, some things have to be imposed or things that have to be implemented from a regulatory standpoint. But when you're talking about just the basic activity of a banking institution, I always remind them that a bank is only persons. It's not a mythical entity. And so the reality is it's navigating those stakeholder groups.
All right, so I want to talk some more about that in just a bit.
Let me just make one quick observation too.
Okay.
That, and I would encourage anyone who's listening now to do a quick look at their bank statements, and they will notice that if they're receiving transfers from persons in other banks or entities, notice how subtly the amount of information that comes along with those transfers has improved. And that gets to a concern that a lot of businesses have had about how easy it is to reconcile payments if people are sending them electronic transfers. And it's pointing to a very important improvement in getting more information, traceable information into the wire transfers. And that's a very important improvement in terms of making it more convenient for businesses to receive payments online. And I would make a prediction that given such improvements, the bill pay as we see it today will soon be a thing of the past because the average business will be able to stay in just one financial institution of their choice, and their customers will be able to get the monies to them reconciled. Trust me.
Well, that's going to be very interesting.
The inroads that we've made in terms of improving the information that comes along with payments will empower a lot more businesses to automate how they are receiving payment from their customers.
Excellent. All right, so you mentioned Sand Dollar, and yesterday we kicked off Live Digital Week with Sand Dollar, and I don't know if you're listening, Governor, but this text came in. I didn't read it then. I saved it for you. This person says here, Dwight, I'm disappointed that the government is pushing the central bank digital Sand Dollar currency. We don't want this control that the government will have over us where they can easily take control of our money for whatever reasons. We heard a lot of this yesterday, by the way. Callers saying this as well. They will eventually be able to automatically tax the money from our Sand Dollar accounts just like how they do with our regular bank accounts with stamp duty and VAT. Even after all these years, you're still hearing these types of conspiracies. What do you say to people who are so... I don't think it's many, but they're enough, and they're making noise, who are so skeptical of this.
Well, I think we have to continue to engage, constructively with those individuals. I think one of the concerns that comes across in the comment that you just mentioned is this idea of quote unquote big brother looking at what you're doing. Where we need to shift that conversation positively is how you strengthen individual data privacy rights and the like, and you put in place a lot more of the mechanism so that people have more control over who's looking at their information and how they can give authoritative access to information. But there isn't any conspiracy in terms of the government or anyone, wanting to snoop on individuals. And I think that in the Bahamas, unfortunately, some of the concerns around the us versus them being the government, and taxation is always that if the government has some more information, they're going to be empowered to tax. I can assure the average Bahamian that the government doesn't need any of your personal information to make a decision about how it taxes you or this country. The government knows sufficient about this economy to inform its tax policies. It's just government policy as to how it goes about taxes that matters more. So the concern that somehow participating formally and generating information that's going to empower, what your tax bill looks like. The most comfort you should have around your taxes is that the better we manage our economy, then the greater the assurance that you have that the need for taxation is kept at bay. But I can assure you it's not about the information. But what is more important in this concern about Big Brother, I think, is to recognize that it is wherever we are creating records of our information, and the majority of the information we are creating storage of is in our private transactions and dealing. We also want to make certain that that information is used responsibly. And responsible doesn't mean in every case malicious or not malicious, but just that you have a say in terms of how your information is used, whether it's for marketing or other purposes. So that should not be an overarching concern insofar as persons are staying in the space and doing transactions that would not attract attention for criminal or other nefarious reasons, because the system is already designed to identify those and to stamp those out.
But what I want to add is equally, I think we've had this philosophy in our country about secrecy, that why you want to know my business. And the world has, sadly for some, changed radically in the sense that, yes, it was a few bad actors that had spoiled it for the others. But when we talk about anti-money laundering, countering the terrorist financing and countering proliferation financing, those activities have necessitated greater understanding of the use of funds and how they move. So when we talk about the aspect of what does Sand Dollar open up, the reality is even on your bank account. Now, unless you put the money under the mattress when you receive it, meaning someone pays you in dollars, you put it under the mattress, you spend it. If it goes into your bank account, your bank is monitoring where you're spending the activity so that it can identify, is it legitimate purposes? If you use your credit card, that is being tracked, and the governor mentioned, even some of the places when you shop online, et cetera, are tracking your data to see your purchase history, and AI is now saying where do you spend. So I think sometimes it is distinguishing between anonymity and confidentiality, that what is more important that your information is confidential, but not anonymous. And unfortunately, we sometimes hear, those who are in positions of influence say, well, why are you in my business, right? And so that feeds some of that activity. And it isn't that any financial institution or government is in your business, but it has to have an understanding of activity that is taking place. Right. Ben Franklin said the only certainty in life is death and taxes, right? So the reality is, I think, when we get into the conspiracy theory, the first thing is we have to talk about the wider tax system. The Bahamas is one of the few jurisdictions left where you don't have an income-based tax system. And the reality is if you work, there's already information on your income because national insurance, if your employer is actually legitimate. Now, yes, it has a cap in terms of what is being seen, but information is already being remitted. If you talk about, your expenditure, I already mentioned how those are being done. And so it is more about being comfortable that your information is not going to unauthorized users. And so if it is going only to persons who are authorized, and yes, the reality is government, with its responsibility, has a right to certain information, but it creates laws that are clear as to when and where they can access that information. And to the governor's point, if we strengthen those and better educate persons, then you're never going to eliminate the conspiracy theory because some are fixated. Right. Others enjoy it because it creates it stirs the pot, right? And then you have those who are, if you will, just uninformed and apprehensive. So the responsibility of those who have better knowledge is to say, have rational conversations, right? And do the best that you can in terms of explaining so that for those who are on the fence, you kind of get them in the right part. Those who are intent on just creating this, you're not gonna change them, right? Yeah. I said to a politician recently that was debating with me, I said, I'm sure you have a view that, everyone you want to vote for you, but there are some households that are just not going to. Right. And they smile and they say, absolutely. And that's the reality.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. All right, so I have a question from the
public education, and I think once you have the ongoing public education, and the more transparent your systems are around discussing these issues, I think everybody benefits because then it constantly challenges us to make certain that we're doing the right thing. Yeah. Okay. So I think that's what's important. We don't want to shy away from these conversations.
Yeah. Okay, so I have a question. I know we're doing consumer education, but I have a question from a business perspective. Last week, there were certain retailers that took cash only, right? So there were no credit card facilities. And then there were some retailers that you had a cash price and you had a credit card price. And then, there are other retailers that do digital only, right? So my question really is, how do we make it truly affordable for businesses to be able to transfer from being so cash heavy to more of the digital platforms? Because with a credit card transaction, it's considered a loss because of the fees associated with that particular transaction. And when you consider that fee and then you pay banking fees, so they're trying to avoid that. How do you make this more attractive for businesses to help with that transition to more digital payments?
It's a bit of naivety. And one of the things why I say that is because a business doesn't factor in the cost of cash. And the reason being is because it's not incremental. So on the debit and credit card, they see it as incremental because it's a fee that comes out from the monies that are there. Think about your cash, though. You probably have cash facilities in premises that you have to either buy, install, or otherwise. You have armored vehicles that you have to pay for to move the funds. You have deposit fees at the bank institution, even if it's night deposit. If you get robbed or you get accosted or you lose, if you are a very responsible one, you have cash insurance, but that's a premium that you have to pay. And if you don't have the insurance, that's a loss you have to incur. So it's trying to bring the comparison. So if a business sits down and say, well, actually, how much is it that I'm spending to protect the cash that I'm receiving and then deposit and transfer it, compared to what am I being charged in a digital transaction, which removes not complete security, but the security is now on your inventory versus the cash that you're receiving. I've eliminated, and I have to be careful because some of the businesses say, well, you interrupted our businesses, and I mentioned armored car services and the like. But what you're shifting is really, or not shifting, but you're comparing apples with apples. Right now, a business says the cash is better for me because I don't have all these bank costs. But the reality is, how many costs would you be able to eliminate if you didn't have cash on premises? And when you look at the larger businesses that are going more to cashless, it's not that they've been sold the Kool-Aid or drunk the Kool-Aid, right? They have done a cost analysis and they've seen that, okay, this is what makes sense. The other side you mentioned is in terms of pricing, and a lot of persons don't have an appreciation. In the Latin American and Caribbean region, under the merchant agreements, businesses are not able to surcharge. And what that means is there's no such thing as a cash price and a credit card price. There's a price. Now, if I choose to pay for it with my debit card or credit card, whatever the listed price is the listed price. There's nothing that prohibits a business from saying, I'll give you a discount if you pay in cash. And you could say, well, isn't that the same thing? And the answer is no, it's not. Because the business can take the full price using a digital means. And like I said, if they compare what the cash receipt would have been, right, it's probably about the same or cheaper. And in most cases, just from an overall accountability and audit trail record keeping is much better. Or they can take less money for an item. So even though in their minds there's an aspect that me taking less cash is better than me taking the card, yes, if you've not aligned your business to where the actual cash costs that you incur are, either eliminated for the smaller amount of cash. Because, I put it this way, it's always a zero-sum game, right? That there is going to be a payment somewhere. Now, it is figuring out how do you make that a win-win situation where you're saying that I get the best output for the money that I'm spending. And, how many security guards, security officers, even businesses stay awake at night, particularly if they had a high intake on the day? How many the Police Staff Association are working at businesses you see now to be a deterrent because they're taking high volumes of cash? And what is the cost of that? So, it's one of not only the education, one of the Live Digital Days is business banking, and it's understanding both to the consumer. I have the worst situation because my wife married to a banker, so if she goes into a business and they're telling her that if you pay with credit card, there's a 3% fee or 5% fee, she on the phone telling me I must call the business and tell them they can't do that. So I said, no, you look at who the terminal is and you refer them to the bank.
Is that still happening though? I haven't experienced that.
Most people are correcting it because you have the reporting. It is happening in some cases, but not as prevalent as it used to be. And it's only a matter of educating the consumer to say, when you see it, you report it, because on the terminal machine, it has who the merchant bank is, and you report it, and that merchant is not prepared. The minimum amount is a bit different, and again, that's a little bit of naivety, because the percentage is charged regardless
Right,
of whether
the
it's
amount,
$1
right,
or 1,000.
right.
Yeah.
And the reality is, the more you put through the cards, the lower your discount rate, which is the fee, because it's a volume business.
Right.
So if you say, that you have 30% of your activity is under $10, let's say, the reality is if you added that 30% of the business, you would probably have a lesser charge on the other 70% that is there. So it's about educating not only businesses, not only consumers, but businesses as well.
Governor, you're saying
I
something?
also want to
Yep.
add. I also want to say that we are looking at regulations to prohibit those price differentials. So, if the price is $2, it's $2 regardless of how the payment is made. So, convenience fees or anything that's charged as a convenience fee under the guise of attempting to recover the merchant fee for a non-cash payment. Again, that's a practice that needs to be discouraged. And so businesses, and I think Gowan started to hint at this, businesses need to look at the other advantages of being digital. And one of the big advantages of being digital, aside from trying to be a discriminatory in your approach to pricing, is to recognize potential customers that you do not engage with because you're only accepting cash. Many of the businesses on the Family Island can relate to what that means when the tourists pass through and they don't have the cash. And many of our businesses in Providence, where in the tourism sector, can relate to the fact that often they're not getting sales if they cannot process the transaction, persons who have only digital means of payment. So we have to look at this from a cost-benefit point of view as well, as to where the opportunity exists, not just to manage the cost of the cash versus the electronic receipt, but also the opportunity for business that passes many storefronts because they cannot engage with the businesses that only decide to choose one way of receiving payments.
Yep. Governor Owen, can you say when we might expect that regulation to come into effect? When could that be?
Well, we started to do some consultancy work in terms of looking at various aspects of these issues, and I anticipate that the public conversation on this is going to become a lot more active in the first half of 2025.
Okay.
But like I said, it's a breach of the actual contractual relationship in any event. And so, the regulation is really going to, what I'm going to say, more criminalize versus, and when I say criminalize, let me not be excessive, more penalize versus right now, if you're breaching your merchant agreement, your bank could likely terminate your merchant relationship. And just given a very live example to what the governor spoke about, my institution, helped to effectively outfit the straw vendors and those on where the cruise port comes in. And when you speak to them, and Bahamians, I go back to the secrecy versus the confidentiality. If you speak to most of them, they say their sales are up at least 30%. So I know in Bahamian vernacular, I mean 50%, but I only tell you 30. And we've literally saw in the beginning where you would have a vendor that had a terminal and their fellow vendor would come across to them and say, well, I have a customer, could I use your terminal? And at that we discourage because AML and tracking, et cetera. But it shows you just what was said. How much do you lose? Because now, everywhere in the world, and this is one, so I was just recently at a conference, when they look globally, but particularly in North America, only 15% of transactions are done in cash. Now, the conference I was at was around 15. Now, they were pushing certain cash products. So, of course, the highlight was it's 15, right? Meaning that it's always going to be a number. But if you listen carefully, that means 85% are done through digital means. And so if we start facing the reality that you think about your customer base and you're saying that 85% of the actual transactions I'm going to get is through a digital means, do you want to be absent from that equation, or do you want to be only in the space of 15%, particularly for people who come in from international
Do we know what it is here in the Bahamas?
I would say that I don't have that answer, and I don't think we track it in that manner because we've not, that would require both coming from businesses, the survey and the analytics. We could do so, but I would say it's probably a bit
retail
higher.
level, it's around about maybe mid-30s to mid-40% cash. So cash is still very heavy in our retail establishments.
But under half.
But it's decreasing.
Yeah.
It's decreasing.
Wow.
It's decreasing.
That's one.
People need to be paying attention.
And if you look at even the retail businesses, when we look at those who are coming on to do merchant sales, if we look at the mix of their business over the first 3 years, because that's usually when you're settling in, you see a rapid and radical shift because what they find is, and now it's more convenient. Like I said, you never leave home without your phone, right? You never leave home without your card now because, if you want to go to the hotel, resorts, dinner, and all of the things there. So what you're finding is most retail establishments realize, particularly impulse buying, you need to be able to accept digital payment because if the person is saying, oops, I forgot, the chances of them having cash in them is not always going to be as high as it was before. And, I was told, you need to just keep $200 on you because of your high profile, because when the robber come, you better have something to give him or else you can get shot. Right. So, but I usually don't have cash on me.
Sand dollar him the money.
Exactly.
All right. So we get this a lot, especially creatives talking about work that they do on platforms like YouTube and people who are using PayPal, but challenges they're having. What's being done to make these processes easier to get money that you've earned and to trade and all those things? What can you tell us about
I'll
that?
start with that one because I'll protect my governor in this instance because it is a business relationship in the first instance, and it goes back to persons not being fully transparent. So what you find is they want to do something without telling the financial institution, and then when the payments are blocked coming in, they have a surprise look. But if you are upfront, right? So what I can say to you is, it is, when we talk about source of funds, right, that's important in terms of understanding your expected activity. So if you have Airbnb or you have elements like artisans and things that you're selling online, just be upfront that this is the environment in which you're selling. You may be receiving foreign currency for it. And again, the foreign exchange controls rules have been relaxed in several areas where you are permitted to actually hold a foreign currency account in the local economy. It has caps on what can be done, etc. But persons don't educate themselves. And the typical Bahamian response is, if I tell you less and you interrupt my transaction, you being obstructive, versus if I told you from the very beginning, you would enable it. Now, what I will say is on PayPal and the others coming through, yes, there has to be an information gathering and an understanding of whether the sources are deemed to be legitimate for what you're saying. And so PayPal, if you look at it, is only a facility. It's not a KYC institution. So it's receiving funds from those who are giving monies to you, and it's remitting it to you. It's not looking at, did the person who sent it to you, was it really a legitimate source where they had it from? Now, there's an inherent management of it because it comes from a credit card, debit card, because in order to use PayPal, you connect it to a card. So sometimes there's a simplicity that says, but it comes from cards, why you need to know all of that? But it's really saying, well, yeah, someone could be paying you nefarious activity. There's nothing that says you're not in the pharmaceutical trade that's illegitimate, and the person is using a credit card on the other side to pay you through PayPal and remit.
Right.
When I go to the extreme. So, but if I know this is your business, I can see evidence of it taking place, and particularly through the family islands and in some of them, again, they get a terminal for a restaurant business, and then you find they're selling artifacts, right? So again, when it gets blocked, you have to be very careful that it's just saying that, okay, your banker, and this is where I spoke to the customer service, and we have to live up to that meaning as banks. Your banker is not your pastor, but probably the next one in terms of who you are expressing the most to, because what you're trying to establish with them is that level of comfort that says, I know what Dwight is doing, I know what Ms. Dane is doing. What I am saying is, when I see that activity is not unusual to them, and so therefore it goes through without any issues. If they are not telling me, it is going to be blocked at some point because we're trying to protect the wider system from nefarious activity, because if it was a free-for-all, then those nefarious characters would want to use it for their nefarious activities. But if you are upfront, legitimate with it, and I know a number of persons who have Airbnb, et cetera, and they've set it up the right way, and yes, they're on PayPal, they have their own online e-commerce site, the ones now, and so they don't have problems with it because they've been very upfront.
Governor, your perspective.
We've from the central bank point of view, we've given individuals the permission to have those U.S. dollar accounts even outside the Bahamas where it's necessary. But the very next step that we need to do to achieve as a country, and this speaks to a lot of things about your international relationships. Each of those types of vendors and merchants, they try to be compliant country by country, jurisdiction by jurisdiction. So the more we can work to make it so that they are formally recognizing you in your country as a counterpart for transaction, that is very important. The example we have of that right now is that Netflix, Bahamians pay VAT on Netflix, but Netflix is situated formally here, similarly with Starlink. And so you want to do more in terms of how you reform aspect, even of your tax system. It gives you certain of those advantages in terms of opening the doors to some of those legitimate international relationships. So, and it gets away from the issue where Bahamians struggle to have, say, a U.S. zip code in order to receive certain, types of payment for transactions online, because that's imperfect. So let's begin to see the relationship between some of the things that we even do in terms of the anti-money laundering system and how we make certain that the Bahamas get a good perceived grade internationally so that you can cement those relationships, because Bahamians should be able to receive an Apple Pay or Google Pay or whatever it is, and to seamlessly transfer the monies into their domestic account. There won't be any exchange control hindrance to that, but we have to recognize that there might be some other legal hurdles as a jurisdiction that we have to continue to, push back against.
Wow. Yep.
Interesting.
And trust me, I think we'd be surprised to know the significance of some of the same conversation we're having around tax reform, how it would play, and the gains that some entities made in terms of international business relationships because of value-added tax, giving them a formal framework in which to do certain things. I can assure you.
Wow. All right. So consumer fees. Of course, you've both been in the news a lot about this in the last month or so. People still up in arms with what they perceive as rising bank fees. The regulator has made comments, and so has your association GOWD. But let's talk about where things stand at this point and where we're going to head in this direction.
Well, let me say that
Governor,
it's a work in progress. We're looking at how you can introduce regulations where you can. But we have to recognize as well that the attention that the financial sector gets, if you look at it from the positive side, is because of the level of transparency which exists in terms of financial products and services. If you were to go elsewhere in the economy and try to observe when prices change, you don't see that. And so I think the perception that prices are adjusting in this sector, independent of what's happening elsewhere, is a little bit off. And so all of these entities are operating within the same economic environment in terms of cost structure and the like. And so that is very important. But there is important work happening in terms of how you address it. And we think that one of the ways, in a very targeted way, would be to have what we call a basic banking product or a basic transactional account, which exists in countries, some of the Dutch-speaking countries in the Caribbean, copied from the European example and elsewhere. So we're looking at how something of that form could be targeted. I say targeted, not universally available, but targeted to persons who need it. Needing it in the sense that the $20 or the $30 monthly fee is the difference between having sufficient groceries on the table. So clearly I don't qualify. Probably no one on this conversation qualifies, but I think we can design such a mechanism. But beyond that, we can't resolve these issues without understanding that you got to make the environment in which these institutions operate in less costly, and you got to get these institutions back to making more of their income of lending. The more that they can earn on lending, then the less pressure there is for them to earn it from these sources. Because if you look at the profit levels that seem scandalous in the banking system when they're published, again, thanks to the transparency, banks today, relative to their size and everything else, they are just back to where they were in 2008, just back. And so we do have to be concerned in terms of how they got back to where they are, and to recognize that in 2008, they functioned with the lending side of their operations being more important. And so getting that done is important. And there are a lot of issues involved that, that I won't get into, but the short of it is that you got to find the people to lend to.
Well, I was going to say, Gowanbo is nodding his head. Is that a problem? Is people not qualified? What's the issue?
There are three issues that I think, and I know time is short, and that'll be a whole show. And you know,
We'll
one
have to
thing
have
I'll
you both
welcome
back for that.
both to do that. But the first one is we have to sort of discourage our politicians from creating an us versus them. Because what is a bank? And I've said it with you guys before, and I know you teased and say you want to come back. The bank is only shareholders, depositors, borrowers, and employees. And so exactly who is the bank that is doing this to who? So is it Dwight as a shareholder doing it to Ms. Dean as a depositor? Right? And let's get it personalized like that so that the conversation is not irrational and it seems like there's a big bad wolf doing something. There's a fiduciary relationship that has to be handled. The second one is the taxes on the banks have increased, and that's a cost base. Right. And it's not, we should all pay our fair share of taxes, right? So some may be surprised Gowan says that, but Gowan strongly believes that it's an equitable tax system. But sometimes we have to use tax policy to actually give subvention to initiatives that are unprofitable, because we talk about different things. So if you're saying that I want to encourage a certain level of cost or a certain presence, etc., tax me, but how do you help through subvention in terms of those taxes being redirected for specific public purposes? And then finally, on the lending environment, we as a public company had to look at the analysis. Just from pre-COVID through to the end of 22, the actual lending portfolio contracted by nearly $500 million, nearly $500 million. And it is coming back, but in 23 and now in 24, really at a clip of 20 million, 40 million. So when you think about if it doesn't pick up the pace, it lost nearly 500 million in 2 years,
My goodness.
2.5 years. So how does it recover? And what Governor referred to, when you look at profitability again, sometimes we look at the absolute dollar amount, not the relative. And so when you hear X million in profits, which you did not take into consideration, how much was the shareholders' equity that has been put at risk in order to earn that? And if it is 10%, is that a lot for an institution that could lose 10% in a downturn year? And so we don't have, and sometimes persons will say that's smoke and mirrors, that's the banks trying to distract. But the reality is a bank doesn't exist if it does not pay an equitable return to its shareholders. It does not have strength and security in its depositor base where they believe that when they put in $1, they will get back $1. If it doesn't have controls around its borrowers to make sure that they are paying, and it doesn't pay its staff.
Right.
So if I am managing all of those elements, and when I look at fees, now what I think we can certainly acknowledge, and ours is probably one of the most transparent industries in the country, as Governor highlighted, or not probably, it is the most transparent. there's still further transparency that can exist, because sometimes what the end consumer sees is the end number and not the construct. And in certain jurisdictions, there are requirements to disclose what will be earned by this new fee, or what is the projected earnings. What are the cost base, so what is the markup, if you want to call it, and the gross margin. And so there are opportunities to strike a balance that says, what is the fee being charged and how did it come up? But sometimes I say to persons, and that's why Live Digital is so important.
Yeah.
If you hire an electrician to change this light bulb, and his service fee for coming out is $100, even though the light bulb is $350,
right,
you're going to pay $103.50, right? When you could have changed the bulb and it would have cost you $350 and maybe the gas to pick it up.
Right.
So if Live Digital allows you to do things where you are not actually engaged in professional services, and we'll talk about customer service a different day, but you are engaged in a professional. You have to sometimes ask the question, what does it cost the institution in order to have that employee, to have the system, to have the brick and mortar available? And so if the number of transactions is declining, the per transaction cost is increasing. And so the best way you as an individual is by saying, I take it on myself and I'm going to remove unnecessary costs. And be able to do so.
And I think that answers the question that would people say that all the time, that not necessarily your bank, but a lot of the other banks would not charge these fees in other jurisdictions or in their home countries.
That's not quite.
But
not quite true. And the only reason why I say that is because we're not comparing apples with oranges. The volumes in other countries.
Right.
So when we look at, I will say this, the governor can't say it. When you look at studies that are done, they say that the Bahamas probably has too many clearing banks for the population that it has.
Oh, really?
And so when you're really sharing so if you think about 400,000 in terms of population, not all of those are bankable persons. When I say that, meaning it's kids and the ones that are sitting there. So when I'm looking at that in an institution in North America, that's not even one branch's, listing that's sitting there. So we have to just be very, very careful that if I have 10 million transactions and the cost is fixed and spread, that's very different from the same cost spread over 400,000. So we do the comparison sometime too cavalier.
Yeah.
We do the comparison, but only when it suits us. Because if people always say we can go into the U.S. and open a bank account in half an hour. That's not true anymore. When is the last time you tried to do that, right? In fact, they're closing, Bahamians who had accounts in the U.S. are finding that the U.S. banks are closing them because they don't have residency and don't have certain elements. And then the flip side, how do I know just because someone has told me? If you look at the wire fees, if you look at the transaction fees in the United States, you may be surprised if you drew the comparison.
Yeah.
And so we have to be very, very careful about drawing what I'm going to call bespoke comparisons and do a holistic one, but also compare what is the actual base over which costs are being distributed.
Governor Roll, we got 30 seconds, but it's not just banks involved in Live Digital. You've got the credit unions and cooperatives as well. Is that right? Did we lose the governor?
Yes, the credit unions are involved, and we've made it very clear to the credit unions in terms of some of the improvements that are happening in payment space. We're looking 2 or 3 years out, and they have to be shoulder to shoulder with the banks. Credit unions, the digital wallet providers, and we also have a very good input from the insurance sector and the Chamber of Commerce through their representatives, the accountants and the attorneys.
Wonderful stuff. We could talk for hours. Hopefully we'll do this again very soon. Governor John
you started
Roll.
a precedent. So like I said, you'll figure out David and Goliath, but we'll have what we'll see is an opportunity to discuss it in a more rational manner. And sometimes it'll help the conversation because I think sometimes pieces are dropped, not the full story. And when people have the full story, they at least have a greater appreciation. And then there are criticisms you can take on because it's not an emotional criticism. It's now more an informed criticism, and you have to address those things.
Thank you both for being here this morning. We're very honored to have you with us. Gowan Bowe with the Clearing Banks Association and Governor John Roll with the Central Bank of the Bahamas. Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Duquesne Dean, thank you for being here this morning. I'll see you next week.
See you
Folks,
then.
pick up today's National Guardian in the Guardian Business section. And for the latest in business news, brought to you in part by Seafowl, growing wealth for future generations. I'll be back tomorrow. Everyone have a great day. Stay tuned for On the Clock with Aaron Green next.
know someone who is a champion for peace, a person who embodies and encourages cooperation, mutual respect and justice, and creates a safe environment in which everyone can flourish? Well, guess what? You have from now until September 30th to visit our website, characterdaybahamas.org, and nominate that special person for a chance to be honored as a hidden hero.
In my heart and in my soul,
Ready to save? You can put $100 into the CFAL Savings Express Plan and make sure your money keeps growing. Earn interest on your savings while you're sleeping, eating, or standing in line at the bank. Ready to invest? Start by putting $1,000 into our mutual funds and earn interest there too. Because at CFAL, your interest is our interest. Visit CFAL.com to start now. CFAL, growing wealth for future generations of Bahamians.
Do you know a fisher who braves the seas every day, bringing home a catch that feeds our communities? Nominate them now for the Anchor Awards, a night dedicated to celebrating the unsung heroes of our waters. On November 16th at the Bahama Resort, we're shining a spotlight on those who make waves, both big and small. Visit the Ministry of Agriculture and Marine Resources Facebook page and click on the link provided to submit your nomination. Let's give our fishers the recognition they deserve. Anchor Awards 2024.
This is Guardian Radio.